Hello, my name is 정상원 and I'm in first grade in the Hanil High School and in the 55 group in the Youth Culture Corps. Well, we're now in the 경복궁 Palace, which is in the main palace of the Joseon Dynasty. I've introduced the 경복궁 Palace to foreigners as the Youth Culture Corps. So I made this video to introduce about the historical facts about this palace and basic knowledge about this. So I want you to enjoy this video, and if you have a chance, I want you to visit here as well. So I will lead you inside and let's start our tour. So again, welcome to 경복궁 Palace, and we are now standing in front of our main gate, Gwangwamun. There are four gates in each direction, and this one you see is a southern gate, and this is the biggest one. And also it has the stone arch and the special character about this gate. So the middle one was used for king, and the left and right ones were used by official workers and crown princes. And also about this gate, this Gwanghwa means to educate people with brightness. As the name says, in the old times, the Gwanghwamun gate hold a bell or a drum on the first floor of the pavilion, and they rang the bell or hit the drum while the door is closing or opening or while in the lunchtime. So yeah, it also told a special event or a time to normal people in this road. Let's then go inside and we'll check a look. So now we're in front of the map of the 경복궁 Palace, and so I will explain you about a simple brief about the Joseon's history. Well, in 1395, the General Lee Seong-ge claimed him as a king and established the Joseon Dynasty, and he needed to have a new capital, and he thought that the Hanyang, which means the today's Seoul, is a great place for a capital because it is a good condition based on the Confucius idea, 풍수지리. So he built a shrine and this palace in the first place. So this gate and the whole palace was again built in 1395. And there were little disasters big disasters like Japanese invasion or Chinese invasion, and also Korean War. And between them, there were little fire disasters, so this whole palace was burnt down many times and destroyed. So, well, actually, this was the main and biggest palace, but the Cheongdeok Palace was mainly used by the king. So we're still rebuilding it, and this map is just about 10% of the original one. So maybe in 2030, you will see the original whole palaces again. So you're looking at a bridge, and you can think this bridge is as a connection between your royal area and normal people's area. This bridge is called Yeongjegyo, and other four palaces also include like these bridges. So this is like a meaning of connection and also a differentiation between the kings and normal people. And also we'll now visit in the main building, and the main building court was used by king, and this bridge court was used for crown prince for his official ceremony. So let's move inside and we'll look in the main building of this palace. So now you're looking at a main building of our palace. This building's name is called Keunjeongjeon, and it is one of the outer palace which held official ceremonies and big events such as coronations or envoy receptions. Palace can be divided into two parts, and it is the outer palace and inner palace. The outer palace is like this building, like they held really big ceremonies or used at a political event, and inner palaces were used mainly about the royal family and palace people's living quarter. So let me introduce about the brief about this outer yards, outer area, and the outer shape of this building. So first of all, you can see this floor is really rough and it's all made of stone. And these stone floor is called 박석, and its purpose this floor is for making the floor more drier, because when they have official ceremonies, sometimes official workers have to sit down, and if it rains and if there's only a soil, it eventually makes the floor very wet and it will make their clothes very dirty. So if they put a stone like this, it makes the water evaporate more faster, and yeah, it could be more helpful for the official workers. And the second purpose is, in Joseon time, they were ruled as a Confucianist idea, and they thought that the royalty to the king were really, really important. So they have to kneel in front of the king, and they wanted to happen naturally. So you can see this floor is very rough, so we naturally have to look down to not fall over. And eventually we have to kneel to the king. So nextly, you can see like these small stones, and those are called ranking stones. So this stone is called ranking stone, and this stone is first made during the period of King Jeongjong. When he held the official ceremony, he thought that the court was very messy, so he thought that he need to stabilize the rank standing system, so he made the stones. So each official workers have to stand each in front of each ranking stones by their ranks. So there are 12 on each side for the military and civil officers. So there's a total 24. The eastern part, so that's the southern part, so the east is the eastern part where the civil office stands, and this is where the military officer stands, which is the western side. That's because during the Joseon time, civil officers were thought more important than military officers. So that's why they stand on the eastern side where the sun goes up. Yeah. So now let's get closer to the building, and now I'll explain inside parts of the building. So before we enter into the building, I'll explain you about this King's Path. So the left and right stairs were used for the official workers or a crown prince, and this middle one was used for a king. And actually, king used this path without stairs. It's because in Joseon there were traditional transportation called palanquin, in Korean, kama. It's like a transportation with a chair and two sticks or four, and the servants can lift king up, so eventually he didn't need the stairs. As you can see, there are two birds in this path, and this path is called 답도. And these two birds' name is called 봉황, and you can think it as a phoenix. Joseon people believe that when the country is wealthy and everybody's happy, this bird appears. So it's like a message for the king to do the right thing for the country. And also, these stone structures under this building is called kidan, and you can see like there are small figures of animals in each kidan. These animals are the 12 zodiacs in Asia. Like in Western countries, we name our age by the stars, and in Asian countries, we name the age by these animals, 12 animals, such as dragons, snakes, or rabbit. For example, mine is snake. And also there are 4 animals that represent the 4 directions. Those are white tiger, blue dragons, and phoenix, and a black turtle. And those are the animals that represents the Joseon's each direction and seasons. So you can see there are lots of guardians that protect this building. So now let's go inside and take a look. So you're looking inside the building, and you can see there, you'll expect that there were 2-story building, but it's actually a 1-story building with a very high ceiling. So the chair in the middle is, as you can thought, is a throne, and the picture behind is called 1월 5학도 or 1월 5봉평. That picture represents the Joseon's universe. For example, the sun represents the king, and the moon represents the queen, and the mountains represents the Joseon's land, and the 5 pine trees represents the 5 official workers, and the water beneath represents the Joseon's people. So there's a throne in the middle where the king sits. So it has a message that the king is in the middle of the whole universe. So the picture always follows the king. Even in his funeral, that picture bears with the king. And in the ceiling of this building, there is a 2 golden dragon. Well, in Asian country, dragon represents the king or emperor. And also, if you look at the ceiling, there is 2 golden dragons. Well, in Asian country, the dragon mainly represents the king or emperor. For example, Chinese use 5-clawed dragon to represent their emperor, and Korea, which Joseon, use 4-fingered dragon to represent their king. But in the late Joseon time, when the Western countries came into the eastern part of the world, and when the Chinese global power has weakened down, the regent Hengseon, the father of the second last king Gojong, claimed that the Joseon is independent and powerful country. So he ordered the constructor to carve 7-fingered dragon in the ceiling. So now let's move on to the king's office for his political work. Let's move on. So this building is called 사정전, which means to think in politic. This building is where a king used to debate or talk about politics with the official workers. So you can think this is like a private office for the king. But actually this building doesn't have any heating system. So in winter it gets really cold. So king rather moved to these 2 buildings called 천추전 and 만춘전. And those 2 buildings have heating system called ondol. In traditional Korean house, we have a heating system called ondol, which heats the floor. And mainly when they cook in the kitchen, the hot air goes underneath the floor and eventually makes it warmer. But they cannot make a kitchen besides the king's working office. So yeah, they have their private firing place in each side of the building. In old times, these 3 buildings were connected with the corridors, but after a lot of fire disaster and wars, the corridors were gone, and now we are seeing the separated 3 buildings right now. So right now you're looking inside of the 사정전, and the picture in the wall is called 운룡도, which means the picture with the cloud and the dragon. As I just said, dragon represents the king or emperor, and in this picture, cloud represents the official worker. As the name says, king should be together with official workers and think about the good politics and work for the country. So most of the people who visit this palace were fascinated with this beautiful design and colors of the building. These paint is called 단청, and in Joseon time they mainly use 5 colors. And the 5 colors represents the 5 directions or 5 different kinds of elements in the universe and 5 different kinds of energy, and those 5 colors eventually represents the whole world. They were red, yellow, blue, black and white. But actually you can see more green than blue. It's because in the old times they used the blue color with a material called cobalt, and it was really expensive because it was from Persia. So ancestors thought that the green was a similar color to blue, so they painted blue instead of they painted the green instead of the blue. And also, if you look closely, you can see a net under the roof. It's because you can see that the decoration under the roof looked like a branch and it's also made of the wood. So it makes a perfect place for birds to make a nest. To prevent this, in old times they used thin straw ropes to make a net under the roof, and for smaller buildings or a corridor, they use little spikes to prevent the birds. So now let's move on to the king and queen's living quarter. So you're looking at the king's living quarter, and this building's name is called 강명전, which means health for the king. So it is constructed with the 9 rooms, and you can think there's really many rooms for king's living quarter. That's because king randomly choose one room at a night time, and the other rooms were used by the palace women or concubines. Because king believed that there were lots of assassins, so he should keep a secret where he sleeps. But actually, in the Joseon's king's record, none of the kings were assassinated during his nighttime. Also, most of the people would think that being a king would be really good, but actually in Joseon, king's life is not very joyful, because during Crown Prince, he have to get really harsh and busy education to be a king, and after being a king, he have to keep doing the study and education, and also he wakes up at 6 o'clock and he sleeps at 11 o'clock, and between the time he have to finish the very busy schedules. So it will be very harsh for the king to do the politics and do the other works. So I'll show you inside the living quarter, so follow me. So now you're looking inside parts of the Gangmyeongjeon, and as you can see, there are not many furnitures in the room. It's because the first reason is, as I just said, king believed there were many assassins, and they thought that the furnitures also can be a weapon for them. So they didn't carry much furnitures inside. And also, the main idea of the Joseon was a Confucianist idea, and in Confucianism, showing off is not a good thing. So king also didn't carry much fancy furniture in his room. And also, you can see like these doors is lift up. Well, as you can see, the normal doors doesn't open like this way. These kind of hanger is called 걸쇠, and in Korean traditional house or in the palace buildings, they can hang up these doors like this shape. And it eventually makes this living room more wider, and it makes more wide and cool area during the summer. And this whole area is called 대청마루. This area is usually used in summertime, so it can be easily found in the traditional Korean houses as well. So now, let's move on to the Queen's living quarter. So now you're looking at the Queen's living quarter, and as you can see, the King's and Queen's living quarters are separated. It is based on the Confucianist idea that says that woman and man can't be together, so their living quarters are separated. Of course, they can move to each other. And well, I'll tell you about the Joseon's queen and as well as the king's life. Joseon's queen's life was not as joyful as king. Well, first, when a woman wants to be a queen, she has to pass a harsh way by competition between the lots of concubines, and the test was very complicated. And also, right after when she was chosen as a queen and enters the palace, she can never get out, except for the wars or another complex circumstances. But actually, queen also had lots of power as a king, because she was the head of all the other palace women and concubines, and also she had a political power as well as king. And also, she is important because she is the only person to give a birth of the crown prince, and it was a main action of hers. So in the eastern corner of this Gyotaejeon has the room for giving a birth of the crown prince. And I had just said that she can never get out from this palace, so King made a beautiful garden behind the Queen's living quarter called Amisan, and it's a purpose to give a good energy to a queen to give a good crown prince. So you're now standing in the king's mother's living quarter. Actually, this building is not very old. This was built by Regent Hungsun in the late 18th century. Well, the king before the Gojong was called Hyunjong, and he didn't have any sons to be the next king. So eventually his mother took a whole charge, and the king's mother gave the power to the Regent Hungsun, and he was very thankful. So this building was made for her gift by the Regent Hungsun. So this building has a special structure because it is a women's living quarter, but it actually has that kind of structure, and which is the room is lifted up from the ground, and that kind of structure is called dumaru. And actually, that kind of structure can be only found in the man's living quarter in the traditional Korean house. But this building is special because it includes that kind of structure. And also, this Jagyeongjeon is famous for its beautiful flower walls and beautiful chimney. So, and I'll show you right now. Follow me. So, now you're standing in the king's mother's living quarter, and this building name is called Jagyeongjeon. Well, this building is not very old. It was built by Regent Hungsun, the father of second last king Gojong, in late 18th century. Well, the king before was Hyunjong, and he didn't have any sons to be the next king. And so eventually the king's mother took the charge, and she gave the power to the Regent Hungsun, and he was very thankful for her, so he made this building for the king's mother. This building is special because it includes a structure called dumaru, like that, which is lift up from the ground. And that kind of structure can be found in the man's living quarter in the traditional Korean house, but it is in the woman's living quarter, so it makes it more special for the king's mother's living quarter. And also, this building is famous for the beautiful flower walls and the chimney back in this building. And now we'll see them right now. Follow me. So now you're looking at the chimney behind the building. And this chimney's name is called 십장생굴도. Well, 십장생 means 10 long living things. For example, if you look at the picture, there are pine trees, deers, turtles, and rocks, clouds, and stuff like that, or cranes. Those are what represents the long living and long happiness. Also, you can see there is 2 animals carved beneath the picture, and that animal is called 불가사리, and it's a legendary animal that eats fire, and it also represents the happiness as well. And if you look beside the chimney, you can see the flower walls. And these flower walls are not carved or painted. Each shape of red blocks were made and put together to make the walls. So these 2 structures were what makes famous about this building. So next, we're going to move on to the pavilion where royal families or official workers have a big ceremony or met foreign ministers. So let's move on. So now you're in a pavilion called 경회루, and well, the purpose for this pavilion was for the official ceremonies between king and official workers, and also they held an envoy reception here as well. As you can see by its size, we can think how important it was the relationship between king and official worker in Joseon Dynasty. And also king and also high-rank chosen official worker could enter this pavilion. So yeah, this was quite crucial pavilion for the official ceremonies. And if you see the pillars, the outer pillar shape is rectangular, but inner sides are round. It is based on the idea called 천원지방, which means the land is square and the sky is round. So if you go up to the second floor, it is a similar meaning that you're going up to the ground to the sky. And also in the old times, the record said those pillars were decorated with the dragon shape. So yeah, in the old times they were more beautiful. And also, historians found a metal dragon from the pond of this pavilion. Well, in Asia, dragon means the king and emperor, and also dragon is an imaginary animal which controls weather and the god of the ocean. So the purpose of the dragon in the pond is about wheeling the good weather and wealth about the country. There are lots of stories about this pavilion. For example, I have said that the only chosen one could enter this pavilion. In old times in Joseon Dynasty, this whole pavilion was covered with these walls, so other peoples couldn't look inside. But there was one official worker who had a very low rank, and he really wanted to see this beautiful pavilion. So he climbed up over this wall and get inside. And he eventually caught by a king. But the king was the King Sejong the Great, which made the Korean alphabet and did a lot of good things for our normal people. Instead of punishing him, he made him to read a book for him, and the official worker memorized a book called Chunchu, which is the history book of the China. And the king was impressed, so he got a higher rank after the situation, and so one of the story. So I have introduced a few buildings in the 경복궁 Palace, but actually this is just a part of the palace. So if you have a chance, I suggest to come here again and see the rest of the palaces. And well, I hope this video was very useful for you, and I will try to make the better ones as well. I want to say that this video was for you to enjoy and know more about the Korean history facts, and I can tell that you will never regret while you're in this country. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a great time in Korea. Thank you.